Hello, this is Dazzling, and this is going to be a video about an epic spell analysis spreadsheet I made. This video will be going over the different abilities and numbers behind them, without as much attention given to how to operate the sheet. If you have issues knowing what to do on the sheet, feel free and check out my DDO Divine Spell Analysis video, where I go over a similar style spreadsheet but for divine spells, and go in depth explaining how to operate the sheet. At a quick breakdown though, edit green stuff, don't edit red stuff. Set up things on the right how your character is set up, and refer to the tables below or reference the epic spreadsheet if you want to see specific information. This sheet includes epic feats, epic destiny feats, and any ability from an epic destiny. Starting off with, if we look at a base comparison with all the spell powers and things set to 0, we can see that generally the long, big cooldown abilities such as Greater Ruin, 0 Degree Comet, Ruin, Dragon Breath, or Holy Fireball are going to outperform other things per cast. And if we look at a per second analysis, Greater Ruin is still very up there, as is Holy Fireball and some other abilities. However, we start to see other abilities like the Sword Sings, Strike a Chord, even things like the Sun Pillars and Mega Spears are beginning to catch up a little bit. Dragon Breath is very good on a per cast basis, but from a damage per second basis, it's not all that significantly better than other options. Note that overtimes are generally only counted for one tick on this spreadsheet. So while if we look, Mantle of Nature and Angelic Form both really outperform Attune the Arcane based on this sheet, that's partially because Attune the Arcane does not have its overtime factored in here. So now we'll move on to what is probably more interesting and beneficial to see, these abilities while we actually have some stats behind them. I doubt any character is going to have exactly these stats all across the board, but I tried to put in an amount that's pretty reasonable to expect and compare off of those. But obviously because it's standardizing across all the stats, abilities that have a lot of spell powers going on like Hellball would perform better in this metric. But Hellball is so atrociously bad that it doesn't really matter. So, if we want to look at these charts here, Greater Ruin is far and away absolutely the king of damage when you have Ruin Intensified, which is the thing that lets you apply your Draconic Incarnation damage to it. If we turn that off, then you can see Greater Ruin's actually beat by some things. It's still good, it's just not as phenomenal. This is frankly overpowered. But Greater Ruin's far and away king. Once we look past that, Ruin itself is still very good. And then other abilities can start showing up below that and being competitive. So 0 Degree Comet and Moon Shadow, those are the tier 5 Magus abilities. Thunder Snow, Dragon Breaths, Holy Fireball. A lot of these features are very good as well. And if we look at damage per spell point, honestly there's not much information you can get here because a lot of abilities don't require spell points. And then damage per second, Greater Ruin is still phenomenal. Ruin is still phenomenal. Ruin Intensified is just completely ridiculous. Things like Holy Fireball, Strike a Chord, the Mantles all perform well damage per second wise. The tier 5 abilities are still up here, as are Dragon Breaths. One thing to keep in mind that I mentioned earlier as well with Attune the Arcane, but overtimes are not factored in very well here, just because I don't want to have overtimes be factored in as full value when frequently you're going to kill enemies before overtimes can tick their whole duration. So consequently, something like Shard Storm that's 11,000 damage, if you multiply that by 6, it's getting close to 70,000 damage per cast, which is even better than King Ruin. Similarly, if we look at something like Dragon Breath Vortex, that performs very well from that perspective. Now another thing I wanted to consider is more specifically just epic feats and epic destiny feats. We can actually see Spirit Blades manages to sneak its way onto best damage per second. It doesn't show up in best damage, but if we look at it in the detailed view, Spirit Blades compared to Arcane Pulse, Hellball, Forced Escape, way better. Hellball is just sad. Arcane Pulse is an interesting one because yes, it's a very long duration overtime, and there are situations where that's very valuable. However, just the base damage of it is very unimpressive. Even if you get 7 stacks of this with Arcane Pulse, you let it run its full duration, it's still nothing compared to a Ruin, or a Greater Ruin, and it's not really even as good as the Comets or that type of ability. Now maybe you're wondering, well Daz, what does this mean in practice? Well, effectively there's some big takeaways we can get from here. One being Mantle of Sound and Fury, somewhat Chill Aura, although Chill Aura is significantly better than Mantle of Sound and Fury. Those are some very unimpressive mantles when it comes to damage. You're going to be way better off using Attune the Arcane, Mantle of Nature, or Angelic Form if your goal is damage. Mantle, or the Rule of Law, Mantle is also, it's the same as Sound and Fury. They're both pretty terrible. And another consideration is Ruin and Greater Ruin are very strong, but obviously that's a double feat tax, where you're potentially, taking Greater Ruin means that you're not taking Intensify. We just lost like about 10% of our damage across the board on everything else in exchange for getting this Greater Ruin up. So it's a very, very strong feature, but it does have a balance of that big feat tax. So I think that's about all I have to look at on this. If you guys want to see me analyze any specific things from this more, then let me know. I could certainly do a Epic Strike comparison or Epic Feat comparison or something. Similarly, if you want to look at stuff yourself, I will have the link to the spreadsheet in the description. Yeah, I think that about covers it. So, hope you guys liked it. Hope you enjoy. If you have ideas for what you'd like to see DDO analyze next, then let me know. But for now, it's going to be it. So, take care and bye-bye.